Now in the average profit, what you want to have here, we need to put the information as the first one is total profit. So this is showing here total profit. So let me write here total profit. Let's try whether this will work or not. And then I need to write total number of customers. That is the another measure. So once I click on that, am I getting any changes? No, I am not getting any changes. Just it is formed with some kind of text here. So we want to have that information. So let's try one another way. I will be deleting everything from this side. Average profit, and let me take this value as, I should write it as a function, and this total profit divided by total number of customers equals to. So this time let's see what is the output. Yes, we got the output here. This was the correct way. So we have total profit divided by total number of customers. From here I can give it a name, and this name should be average profit with us. So this is average profit. So after you click on enter, then you can see here we have the total number of customers. This we entered from the measures tab. This total profit also we added from the measures tab, and then average profit we calculated it by entering the manual values. Let me go back to the Excel, and this here in the measures you can create a new measures as well. And if you click on the manage measures, there you can see all three measures. If you want to do some kind of editing, you can do it. If you want to delete this measure, you can delete it here. You want to have a new measure, that also you can have it from this manage measures table. This is all about the measures. So what we have next, so we learned about how we can edit the current model. We can click on manage and then click on editing part. Then we have a very interesting factor, that is key performance indicator. So what is key performance indicator? So let's learn about that. These are the set icons based on condition. Prerequisite is that you should already have the measure with you, and you can provide the conditional formatting so you can have the KPIs like this. So this is very interesting one. Let's try that. So we have the customer tables here. Let's go back to the data model and see what we have now. So we are into this financial sample table only. In that data model, if I add something, this is about the rate. So if you are having something here in that current sheet, you can add it to the data model. Pivot table, you can also have the pivot table as well. I'll go back to the file here, and in the data, then you can have in the insert, click on the pivot table, and if I go here from the data model, so from the pivot table, if I click on this from data model, I'll go there. So where you want to have it, let me have it in the new worksheet for now. I'll click on OK. So now you can see it here. So in the pivot table, now this time you have the option from the data model. We have all the three tables with us, that is cookie types, customer, orders. In fact, we have created some. Let me click on this cookie types. We have cookie type, revenue per cookie, cost per cookie. So whatever fields were there, that is allowed to have it here. In the customers, we have customer ID, name, phone number, address, city, state, zip, country, notes, plus whatever measures you have calculated, that values also you can have it here. Total number of customers, total profit, average profit. Similarly, you can perform the pivot chart as well. If you explore the orders table, you have customer ID, order ID, product, unit sold, date, revenue. These all fields we've created in the orders table from connection. So date, revenue, cost, profit is there. So this is the power of power pivot, we can say here. So let me choose something so that you can understand that. So you can have it from multiple tables as well, because all three tables are associated for now. So I'll click on maybe customer ID, or I'll come with maybe, let me come to the order so we can have something, a good information with us. So I'll come with the order ID, in the order ID and the unit sold. So right now it is having the values in the sum. So let me pass it to the unit sold to the rows. So you can see it like this. Or let me delete this one here. I'll remove it here and I'll have the order ID here. I don't want to have it in the sum of the order ID and the unit sold is written. So you have the information for the unit sold. Similarly, I want to have the information about the profit. So you can have that value as well. So you have the authority to make the pivot table as well for the data model for the relationship that you had with the power pivot. So you can make it that pivot with the normal pivot table, and or otherwise you can go with the pivot chart as well. So this all options are available here, and you can use the functions like in the values you can have the measures as well. So let me take the measures as well. So if I'll use this average profit. So this also will be printed here according to here. Relationship between tables may be needed. Auto detect if I'll click on that. So relationship done, no new relationships found. So this is the basic working here. So whatever information you want to have, you can have it with your data set. You can make the pivot table, you can make the pivot chart. So the option was going back to insert, clicking on the pivot table rather than going from a external data source or from a table. You can directly come to the data model and then you can choose where you want to have that table and you can have all the data set with you. Now let's talk about the KPIs. So what is KPI? I'll come to the power pivot. So this is KPI option here. Let me delete this sheet. This is basically not required now, and let me delete other values as well, so we can work on our main data set only. KPIs are associated with the measures only. So if you have the measures associated in your sheet, in your relationship with your multiple tables, only then you are allowed or you are able to use the functionality of the KPI. So I'll come to a blank sheet. In the blank sheet, so you can see this KPI. So what is KPI? If you see the description is not provided here, so there is an option to have a new KPI or a managed KPI. So what is new KPI? It is creating a KPI. KPI is basically create new key performance indicator. So key performance indicator is KPI. So you can create it by clicking on new. In the manage, what you have, you can modify and delete existing key performance indicators by clicking on the manage KPI. So let's try a new KPI. In that KPI, so you can see actually that interesting window with you. So this is providing you the option based on the measures you have made. We have made three measures. So that was total number of customers, total profit, and average profit. So what I'll do, I'll have the value for, let me take it for the total profit. And what kind of measure now you want to give? You want to give a measure. So here you have the values total. Let's take it as an absolute value we are providing here. In that absolute value, so in the profit, what absolute value you want to have? So let me write here maybe 6 lakhs. I'll be writing here 6 lakhs 345. So once you return there, and maybe you can have the values like, so now once you clicked on that, this is inserted here. So let me click on target as 60,000 and 40 will be the range here. So this is the slicer you can say here. So let me have the value as 40 and 60 here. So here you want to choose some kind of icon. Right now, let me go like this. So this is my icon. If I click on OK, so I clicked on OK here, and let me go back to the sheet. This is Power Pivot. So where you can see the KPIs now. So KPIs are already installed. So now you can see set icons based on condition. Pre-request measure should be there, and this provide you conditional formatting. So I'll go back to cookie type. We don't have it here as well, in the orders as well, and the customers as well. Now come back to your finance simple. Here you have the KPI. I'll click on the manage KPI. So this is written here total profit, orders, and you have the value here. Let's see now where we can use these KPIs. KPIs we already created. If you want to see it here, You can go back to the Power Pivot and click on the KPIs and manage KPIs, and there you can see that we already created a KPI here, key performance indicator. Basically, with this key performance indicator, you're willing to know about the performance of your employees, and we can have the targets as well. Target we set as that 6 lakhs for that. For that, profit should be like this. So now let's use this all the data sets in the pivot table. So let me go back to the insert pivot table from data model. So we want to have it into new worksheet. Click on OK. So what I'll do, I'll pick from customers, I'll pick the name and the rows, and from maybe the orders table, I'll have as order ID. So you can see here, I don't need sum of order ID. So I'll change it from here. I'll make it the value setting and come into the count here. Click on OK. You have the count for the order ID. Now we have the order ID as well. This is count for the order ID. And after that, let me take the measures now. Measures is in the table customers only. So I'll go back to the customers table. Now, if you scroll it down, you can see the measures here, but the profit is something showing a different icon now. So now let me click here as the total profit I want. So total profit I have. So let me click on all three values here. I'll check the value as well. I have the value. I'll click on the goal as well and click on the status as well. So now you can see some symbols here. So, and you can compare it. See, our goal was this one. If you compare it with, this is more than the goal. So this is the target is achieved there. This you can say the goal is achieved. In case here it is beyond the limit we provided as something as a 40 something, 40 we provided, and accordingly we are getting these three signals. What we are getting? We are getting yellow, green and red. Let me go back to the KPIs and let's see what we have done. I'll come back to the Power Pivot. This is the KPIs and manage KPI. Right now, let me delete this for now. I'm deleting this one. Close. So you can, it is removed here. I'll come back to my pivot table here. This time I am coming to the pivot. We cannot drill it down here. So insert, this pivot table option is right now disabled. Let me come to this pivot table analyze. Here you can see the options for here. Let me come with the field list. If you click on the field list, this profit is now normal one. I click on the profit, I'll have the average profit, I'll have the total number of customers as well in this pivot table. Now I'll do a reverse engineering. This time I'll go back to Power Pivot and click on the KPIs and new KPI. So KPI I will be providing again to the total profit, and I'll go with the absolute values. This time, let me do it maybe 50. I'll have 5 zeros here and then click on OK here. And then now you have the something like this. So target, I'll make it 50 and red and yellow. So now you can see here what is the range here. So let me select the range accordingly. So you can decrease it or increase it, and accordingly you can do the values like this. And if you want to increase it from here also, you can do it that. And from this you can actually choose the icons. You want to have something like this, something like this, something like this, or something like this you can have it. Let me go with this one and click on OK. So if I click here, then I need to select those values as well. I'll go back to this my pivot table analyze and the field list. In this field list now, let me click on the average profit again, and then let me have this total profit. There I need to see this goal and the status as well. Now you can see the status as well. So if you want to have the colored one, this also you can do this from that key performance indicator. So with this icons, you can actually know about the information available here. This KPIs can help you with that by providing the values here. So you can use different things as well. Like let me use the insert slicer here. So slicer also you can choose it. So slicer, you can have it based on other values. You can have it on active values. Otherwise, you can have take the all values as well. So this all options are available with this Power Pivot option. So Power Pivot and Microsoft Excel, in combination of these two things, or you're having the functionality of this add-in Power Pivot, you can increase the functionality of and power of Microsoft Excel. We can have the multiple data set, we can have the information from multiple tables, and we can form the relationship among those tables, and then we can utilize the data. So what we have covered for now, let me come back to the presentation. So let's revise this once again, what we have covered so far. First, we talked about what is Power Pivot. Power Pivot is an Excel add-in. You can use it to perform powerful data analysis and create sophisticated data models. With Power Pivot, you can mash up large volumes of data from various sources. We have seen like there are n number of options available to have the data source from the outside or from any other database storage device as well. You can perform information analysis rapidly and share insights easily. Before that, you should have that add-in. Add-in we learned how we can have it. Let me revise that as well. So if I go back to the financial sample file options, add-ins, and click on com and click on go, and then you can choose the add-in. Here we need to choose Power Pivot for Excel. Once you have that add-in with you, Power Pivot option is available. So to have multiple tables with you, first you need to do, you click on the manage. Once you click on the manage, you should have the data from other sources and click on Excel, and then next you can add all these files. By clicking on the diagram view, you can form the relationship among those tables. So this depends on you. You want to associate which column from which table. That is entirely your own decision. So you need to carefully see your data, and accordingly you need to form the data. And after that, by using the relate function, you can use multiple values from different tables in one particular value. You can make your own calculation as well. So likewise, in this example, we had the revenue and the cost by taking reference from another table from the cookie type field, and then we calculated the profit. After that, we learned about how we can use this data to the pivot table as well. We can use it here. And let me come back to the financial sample. We learned about how we can create the measures. We click on the new measures, give the name here, and this is basically you're providing one formula. The formula will be added here, and you can add it manually as well. After that, we learned about we can use pivot table into the data model as well. We can form the data chart as well. We can form the pivot chart as well. And in fact, we can use these measures as well in the pivot option. And then we learned about the KPIs, that is key performance indicator. You can click on the new KPI, give the name here. This for KPI, we should have the measures with us. And then you can give the absolute value, you can set the target, and then you can give the range as well. And then you can choose a particular icon, and accordingly you can set your key performance indicator here. So from that graphical, so you can visualize the things here, what is your target, whether the goal is achieved or not, or how much behind you are from that goal. So this can be set from this profit status or from this goal status here only. So this we covered in the Power Pivot. Let's come back to the presentation part. More tables we covered. Learned about connecting multiple tables, auto adds the tables to data model, relationship, creating relationship to connect two tables outside or inside view of data model. And then we talked about creating data model, managing the things here, key performance indicator. Just remember that prerequisite is that you should have the measure before. Summary, in this session, what we learned a very great function of the pivot functions. So we covered the pivot charts in the detail, how we can use the pivot charts, whether it is column chart, bar chart, pie chart, or any other 3D column chart you want to have. We learned in the detail about the slicers and the timelines, how we can use it. We learned about the designing part of the slicers and the timelines as well. And then we learned about how we can create the data models and the relationships. In this pivot table, we also learned about the function get pivot data. So we can learn about the how we have the data into store into the pivot table. And then we learned about the add-in power pivot add-in. From using that power pivot add-in, we can create the data model, we can form the relationship among those tables, whether it is one table, two table, three table, or more than that. And then we learned about how we can form the diagram view and the data view, how we can switch among those two views. We learned about adding a new column from related function from another table. We did some calculation as well, and automatically it will be updated in the entire sheet, in the entire column. We learned how we can give our measures as well, and then we learned about how we can have the key performance indicator. You can set your icon as well, you can give your range as well. But before that, to create KPIs, you should have the measures with you. Only then you can create the KPIs. And this power pivot should, this is an add-in basically, it is only provided into the latest versions only. So before that, you should have this add-in enabled in your system in your Microsoft Excel. Only then you can see it into your tab. Once it is enabled, then you can easily utilize it. And whenever you have such a requirement that your data is placed in multiple tables, that time it is the best thing to connect it with the Power Pivot. And to represent your correct set of the information, you can take advantage of the charts as well, pivot chart as well. So recommendation system also works well, very well in this scenario, and provide you a good quite of a information. And only then, once you are done with your calculation part, your relationship part, you can show your result in the form of charts from a good graphic interface you are providing to your clients. And in that manner, you are a good one to present your information in a correct way after doing all kind of analysis. So this was all for this week. We will be covering more new things into Microsoft Excel in week 9. Thank you.